Hey guys, Jim Bounds, the Motorhome Rehab Ranch. And here recently, I did a set of videos about how to drive your coach, how to make it drive for you. And I talked about several aspects. And the last thing I talked about the issue was tires. And I kind of blew through a few unique things about tires to look out for. It created a lot of comments, a couple of phone calls. So let's spend a little bit more time on this tire thing because everybody's got six tires. Used to be a tire place in town that said tires ain't pretty. Well, they're not, but you got to have six good ones on this thing. You never see old tires on a Corvette. Why is that? Because the owner knows that if he blows out a tire or he has something go wrong with the tire, it could blow the side of his car off. A lot of body work and stuff. Well, if you think about it, our motorhome from the body side molding down is made out of the same material as that Corvette. So essentially, as far as the tires are concerned, we have a 26-foot Corvette with six tires that could damage the body if anything goes wrong. You never want to have tires more than 5 years old. And I'm going to explain it again because this is a special video about this. And I got this information from my uncle that retired in the tire business, the largest distributor in the Southeast. At one time, he was the vice president of Gates Tires, right? So I'm telling you what he told me. Synthetic rubber has several properties. How soft is it? Make the tire grip more. How hard is it? Get more mileage, but it might not grip as much. All this stuff. One of the parameters, the specifications of synthetic rubber is its adhesion, how well it sticks together, it stays together. Well, that adhesion specification is pretty much standardized through the tire industry. You can get a softer tire or a harder tire or different profiles of the cut and all this, but basically the adhesion on synthetic rubber lets go at about 5 years. When I say let's go, you've got cords in there, steel cords or fiberglass cords or whatever, and it's molded into the tire. The rubber is sprayed in there and it's molded in. Well, the adhesion of that rubber lets go, and those cords can break loose. You've heard of separated tires. Well, you do not want to run a tire over 5 years because you could have a chance of separation. And you look at a tire and you go, "Oh man, that's beautiful. I could probably drive that to the tire store." Well, it's very possible you could, but understand that that tire is damaged because of its age. Go to a car show and you see a guy who's got an absolutely original barn find car with the original tires on it that are holding air. They think that's pretty cool. Well, in a way it is, but to be honest with you, don't ever run those tires. It's going to do damage. They're going to blow out. It's kind of cool to have a tire that still holds air that's old, but it's actually it's like having a seatbelt that's been torn, ripped. Does you no good, right? Now, how do you know the age of a tire? Right. On tires, there is a date stamped onto the tire. There's a date code stamped onto the tire. And if you go up to your tire now, a lot of tire stores put the date code on the inside because they don't want somebody to ask what the date code is, because sometimes tires are made by production runs and it may take a while for them to sell through that production run. Remember, you got 5 years. The clock's ticking. 5 years. If that tire's been sitting in inventory for a year or 2 years, that doesn't mean your clock doesn't start the day you put it on. It starts the day that tire was manufactured. Okay, so when you buy a tire, go look at the date codes. Very, very important. So on this tire right over here, they actually mounted the date code on the outside of the tire. All right. Now here's what I'm looking for. Let me wet it so you can see it. Right here, you can see this code. This is 3710. See it right there. 3710. That means the 37th week of 2010. Whoa, this tire is 14 years old. It's almost 3 times past its date. And it looks beautiful. I mean, there's no cracks in it or anything like that. Got good tread to it. It's a 14-year-old tire, gentlemen. You can't just look at the tire. And it almost does little good to put the tire covers on it, unless you're in the desert or something, because most tires will handle UV for 5 years. So the damage to the tire is not on the outside, it's on the inside. Make sense? Now this is an Alcoa rim. Well, I know that because it says Alcoa right there. Now, there are several Alcoa rims, and many will fit our motorhome. This is a pre-1989 8-lug hub center dually rim. Now I'll say dually. The reason I say dually, you can see how it comes out like this. Most rims on cars and light trucks dish inward. Kind of like that. Well, a dually rim is designed to handle more weight because the tire is more centered on the bearing. It's a better weight load handling. But you got to remember this. Most tires are not dualies. Remember that. Also, to fit a GMC, it has to be a pre-89 GM style rim. Why is that? Because in 1989, GM changed the 116 millimeter bolt pattern here. It's a little different. Now, if this rim uses that center to center the rim, and that hole is not perfect, that means that rim will never be centered, because this is a lug nut for a hub center rim. You can see here. This is an Alcoa lug nut. It says 140 PSI on it. And it has a stainless steel cap. Now, they also make plastic caps. But if you'll notice, this is a flat lug nut. So when it goes on the rim, it could go anywhere. Okay? The thing that centers this rim to the coach is the center bore. All right, now, this is a 1602-31 Alcoa rim. How do I know that? Because it's written right here. I cleaned it up. It says 1602-31, and that is the part number for the pre-89 GM rim. There are some other part numbers that are very, very close, but they're not exact. All right. Now, the new lug nut system, not new, but small trucks and cars always used lug centric. The lug nut had a taper to it. All right. And then they used hub centric like this for heavy duty. The industry has changed. They've grouped things. They can make less parts and offer the same thing to people. So what they've done is they said that lug centric rims are fine for heavy vehicles like ours. So what you find if you go to buy aftermarket rims, they're very hard to find. First of all, because they're dualies. A lot of dually trucks now come with aluminum rims. So the aftermarket folks are not selling that many rims. Plus, most dually rims go on a truck that has 2 wheels in the front and 4 wheels in the back, right? And 2 of the wheels in the back are turned backwards. They're dished, right? Well, manufacturer makes them in sets, 2 fronts, 4 rears. The distributors buy them in sets, 2 fronts, 4 rears. But we want to buy 6 fronts. Yeah. So that messes up their inventory, because If it's aftermarket, they're going to sell 6 rims, 2 fronts, 4 rears. We go place our order for 6 fronts. That messes up all their inventory. I've seen rims come in from all over the country because people were not willing to let go of 6 fronts. So this is a situation, but the industry is standardized to this lug-centric system. They've gone away from hub-centrics, and if you buy a new hub-centric Alcoa rim, look at the part number, because if it's not a 1602-31, it is one of their other rims that the hub is very, very close, but it is not the same. Hub-centric rims, like I said, are going out in favor of lug-centric. So keep that in mind. The ion rim is something that we found because there's one of the specifications we have to have. We have a 16.5-inch rim. So our original rim is a little wider than a 16. Okay? You have to be sure that your new 16-inch rim has a dish or a cutout big enough for a 16.5-inch drum and rotor. Some of the aftermarket 16-inch dually rims do not have the specification on the center. That's why we found Ion. They had a fair amount of inventory, and they were willing to sell 6 fronts at a time. So we stayed with Ion. They look very, very similar to these rims. All right. If you're still running 16.5-inch rims, which you could, as long as there's no run out. And what I mean by run out is jack the wheel up and hold a stick next to the rim and spin the rim. If the rim doesn't wobble back and forth, you could still use it. But the problem with steel rims, they will bend. If you have a big tractor trailer with a heavy load on it, with steel rims on the back, you want to roll that thing. You want to rotate those rims every so often, because if you don't, it could bend those rims. Okay, now you think about these motorhomes, most of them just sit around. They don't really drive that much. They just sit around. So if you have a steel rim like this, you want to be sure that it doesn't have run out on it. Also, you want to be sure that it's not a 73 or 74, because those are non-radial rims. So what I mean by that is, this rim here is a radial rim, and it's designed to have outer pressures. Like here's the tire, comes to the rim. Well, a radial rim will push out like this. A bias ply rim will not. Now, the 73s and 4s had bias ply rims. You can tell because if you look inside the spider, and if you look inside the back of the rim, back here, this whole thing is welded. On a 73, 74, they're riveted. If you have riveted rims, I really, really suggest to go buy aluminum rims, because what happens, the riveted spider will separate and they'll start leaking. And somebody will put in a tube, stop leaking, but that rim is not designed for the outer pressures of a radial. Make sense? So you want to change that out. Now, if you go to a coach, and it seems like this is the time of year, a lot of folks are buying coaches. They're finding them. My first thing is look at the date codes on the tires. Like this tire right here. This is a 16.5-inch tire. Looks pretty good. It's a Michelin. I don't see any cracks in it. What's the date code? 3-digit, 498. That means that's the 49th week of 1998. That tire's over 25 years old. There's no cracks in it. You might show up at a coach that you find in back, a barn find or whatever. Tires look good. You pump them up, it holds the air, and you say, well, I got to go 50 miles. Look at the date code. That tire right there, I should let the air out of that tire. Matter of fact, keeping a tire like that does no good at all, because if you put that thing on a coach, it could pop. In fact, I think that I'm going to get rid of all these tires because I don't need them. I'm going to keep this Alcoa. I might keep one tire. This one's only 10 years old. Maybe I'll keep that one. But all these tires really should be thrown away because they're dangerous. That makes sense? All right, now if you have a 16.5-inch rim, the tire you want to use is a Firestone Transforce HT2. The size is 8.75 times 16.5 E. E means it's an E-rated tire. They will have Ds. You need an E. You need a 10-ply tire. The only really branded name that makes 16.5-inch tires anymore is Firestone. And it's a good tire. If you're already on 16-inch, your size should be a 225 times 16 E. 225/75, excuse me, 225/75 16E. Again, it still needs to be a 10-ply E-rated tire. The reason you want to use a 225 and not 245, a lot of people say, hey, that 245 is a better looking tire, a little fatter, you know. The distance between the middle of the rim and the bogey box on the rear wheel, that distance tells us we can't go with much bigger tire than a 225. Yeah, you could put a 245 in there, but it's going to be very, very close. And if you put 245s on the front, it's going to mess up your gear ratio. And if you have original 308 gears, it's going to be a real slug. Okay. So I would use the 225/75 or the 875 16.5. Now there's 9.5 and 16.5. And again, it's a fatter, wider tire. But again, your clearance issues are a problem. Okay. When you go to buy a tire, or when you go to pick up a coach, or you buy a coach, and you're going to brave the driving of it. Now, you saw me do some road trips. The first thing that we checked out before I even got there is what was the date code on the tires. And in every case, we had new tires put on that coach. Okay, I did not take that risk. And I would recommend you not taking that risk either. When you pick up a coach new to you, and the date codes are really, really old, and you are going to buy it, it's going to be yours. Find a Firestone dealer nearby and have new tires put on. If it's a few miles away, drive slowly, put a little less pressure in the tire, like it's an 80-pound tire, put 70 or 65 in it and go slow. That way there's not as much pressure on that tire and you'll be able to get there. But change those tires before you go to take it home. You're going to have to do it anyway. Okay? E-rated tires are going to cost you anywhere from $150 to $250 a tire. There's no way around it. You buy cheap tires, you buy Chinese tires, that's what you get. You want to buy a highway tread tire because this is a highway machine. If you put all-terrain tires, knobby ones or off-road tires, you'll set up an oscillating vibration. And it'll be very noisy and it'll rattle the coach. Okay, this is a highway machine, and I strongly recommend an HT highway tread tire. Okay. Having good tires that are in date, that are balanced and true, and good rims is one of the parts about steerability and drivability. And I appreciate all the questions that were asked and the comments that were made about this. There are 17-inch rims available now, yes, and I do have 17s on mine, but mine is a special case. What we're talking about right now is to get this coach up and running, and these are the tires, these are the rims that you really do want to use. All right, well, look, thanks for your time, hit like and all that stuff. If somebody does ask you, you know, because it's a common question, guy picks one of these things up and says, wow, what kind of tire is that? They really, really need to know this stuff. So direct them, go to collections, and if you look below at this post, you'll see where this post was produced or put in collections, and you'll be able to direct them there every time. All right, good deal. Well, look, thanks for your time, and we'll see you next time.